I still remember the day the wedding invitation arrived, not in a warm, handwritten envelope, not in a thoughtful phone call from my son, but in a text message, a simple, cold line. Mom, here's the link to RSVP for the wedding. No, I can't wait for you to be there. No, it would mean a lot if you could come. Just the link. I stared at my phone longer than I should have, wondering when my son had become someone who spoke to me like he was dealing with a stranger. I told myself not to take it personally. He was stressed. Weddings were busy. Maybe he was overwhelmed. That's what mothers do, we excuse. We forgive before a wrong is even admitted, but something inside me tugged an uneasiness I couldn't shake. 2 days later, I got a call, not from my son, from his fiancée. Hi, Mrs. Thompson, she said, voice sweet enough to sound practiced. Quick thing, we're organizing the wedding party logistics, and the bridal suite is going to be really full. It's mostly close family only. I blinked. I'm close family. An awkward silence, then she giggled. Yes, of course, but traditionally it's mothers and sisters of the bride who stay there. We want to avoid overcrowding. My heart squeezed, tight, painful. So, you're saying, I can't be there with my son, before he walks down the aisle? Oh, he'll be busy getting ready with the groomsmen, she replied casually. It's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Not a big deal to erase the mother who raised him. Not a big deal to exclude me from a moment I had dreamed of since he was little. I hung up with a polite tone. I didn't feel. When the call ended, I sat in silence, trying to swallow the hurt. Later that evening, I mentioned it to my son. I hoped foolishly that he would fix it. Mom, he sighed, please don't make this complicated. It's her day. She wants her mom there. Just let it go. Let it go. As if I were holding on to something unreasonable. As if wanting to see my son before his wedding was some kind of disruptive demand. I tried to breathe past the ache. I'm not asking to be center of attention. I just want to be part of Mom. He interrupted. Don't start drama, please. Drama. That word cut me in a way I don't think he understood. I wasn't causing drama. I was being dismissed. Still, I swallowed my pride. I said nothing more, because I loved him. But the real blow didn't come until the day of the rehearsal, when I walked into the venue and saw something that made my heart drop. His mother-in-law, hair done, robe ready, smiling proudly, was already seated in the bridal suite. In my place. The place I had been denied. And my son, he didn't even look surprised. The rehearsal was supposed to be a formality, quick, simple, and harmless. At least that's what I told myself as I walked into the venue, clutching the small gift I'd bought for my future daughter. A bracelet, delicate, elegant, something I hoped would make her feel like she wasn't gaining just a husband, but a family. But as soon as I stepped inside, I realized I was wrong. The bridal suite door was slightly open, just enough for me to hear laughter. Warm, familiar laughter, the kind that belonged in a family. My heart lifted for a moment. Maybe they had changed their minds. Maybe they decided I could join after all. Then I nudged the door open, and there she was, my son's mother, seated comfortably in a silk robe, hair professionally styled, glass of champagne in hand, right where I should have been. My future daughter-in-law turned and smiled brightly, not at me, but at the woman beside her. Oh, Mom, the photographer wants a few shots of us getting ready tomorrow, she said. Her mother nodded proudly. Of course, sweetheart. Meanwhile, I was still standing at the doorway, like an intruder. Nobody noticed me, not even my own son, who was standing near the corner, fixing his tie. I cleared my throat softly. Hi, I didn't mean to interrupt. My son finally looked up, but there was no warmth in his eyes, just discomfort. Like my presence made everything inconvenient. Mom, you're here early, he said. Early. The rehearsal started in 10 minutes. That his fiancée gave me a quickly assembled smile. Oh, Mrs. Thompson, can you wait outside? The suite is a little crowded right now. We're just wrapping up something. Wrapping up what? My place in their lives. I stepped back into the hallway, the door gently closing in my face. For a moment, I just stood there, staring at the floor. The bracelet in my hand suddenly felt heavy. Too heavy. A bridesmaid approached, whispering softly. I'm so sorry. They said it's family only in there. Family only, and I wasn't included. I forced a polite nod, hiding the storm inside me. The rehearsal itself was painful to watch. My son walked down the aisle with a distracted, nervous smile, but every time his eyes brushed past me, I saw something else, maybe even shame. His fiancée's mother acted like the queen of the event. She corrected decorations, instructed staff, and treated the whole ceremony as if it were her personal production. Meanwhile, I was treated like a guest, a distant relative, someone who was expected to sit quietly and stay out of the way. That night, as I drove home, I kept replaying one question in my mind. At what point did I stop being my son's mother? I didn't have an answer yet, but the wedding day would give me one loud and clear. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more emotional stories. The morning of the wedding should have felt magical. I should have woken up excited, maybe even emotional, thinking about the little boy I raised now becoming a husband. Instead, I woke with a knot in my stomach, tight, heavy, and impossible to ignore. I dressed slowly, choosing a navy blue gown we had once picked together, back when my son still asked for my opinion. I was halfway through fixing my hair when I got a notification, a text, from my son. No greeting, no warmth, just one line. Mom, please don't come to the suite. She doesn't want extra stress. Extra stress. I stared at the message, feeling the words burrow beneath my ribs. Was my presence stressful? Was I unwanted? Still, I didn't respond. I didn't want to make things worse. I only prayed that once the ceremony started, everything would feel different, better. Somehow, when I arrived at the venue, cars were lined up everywhere. Photographers ran around capturing shots, bridesmaids were laughing, and staff buzzed from one corner to another. Everyone had a purpose. Everyone except me. I walked toward the entrance, where I saw something that stopped me in my tracks. My son's mother-in-law stepping out of my son's car, the very one he and I spent 2 years restoring together, the one I thought he cherished because of those memories with me. But now, she was sitting in the front seat, smiling like royalty while he held the door open for her. My son saw me. He froze for half a second, guilt flashing in his eyes, but he quickly masked it with a strained smile. Mom, oh, you made it. I made it, I echoed softly. This is my son's wedding. Why wouldn't I? His fiancée's mother stepped beside him, resting her hand on his arm. He was just helping me because my husband isn't here yet, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Such a sweet boy. Her boy. No, he was mine. But in that moment, it didn't feel that way. I tried to swallow my disappointment, but my voice betrayed me. You drove her in your car. My son rubbed the back of his neck. Mum, she needed a ride, and since you always take Uber, I take Uber because you said parking is limited, I reminded him, my voice trembling. He looked away. Then, before I could say anything else, a coordinator rushed over. Mother of the bride, we need you for photos. Mother of the bride, those words echoed painfully, as she walked away with her head high. My son followed her with his eyes and, not me. I felt myself fading into the background again, the invisible mother, the inconvenience, the afterthought, but that was only the beginning. Because what happened next inside the ceremony hall changed everything. The ceremony hall was breathtaking, white roses everywhere, chandeliers sparkling like stars, and soft music filling the air. It should have felt like a dream. Instead, it felt like I had wandered into someone else's life, someone else's family, someone else's moment. I found my Satro 6, far right, practically in the shadows. Not the mother of the groom row, not even close. In the front row sat the bride's family, all of them glowing in coordinated outfits, and right in the center was my son's mother-in-law beaming proudly, whispering instructions to a photographer like she was running the whole show. Meanwhile, I sat alone, clutching tissues I pretended I didn't need. As guests settled, I noticed something important. My son kept glancing at the bridal suite door. He wasn't nervous about the ceremony. He was nervous about me, nervous I might accidentally ruin something simply by existing. The music changed. Everyone rose. The bride entered, looking stunning, holding her father's arm, and there, following close behind her, dressed immaculately, and holding the bride's veil, was her mother, occupying the role I should have shared with my son, in some way. My heart clenched, not because I wasn't beside him but because I wasn't even acknowledged. Throughout the entire ceremony, my son and his mother-in-law exchanged small looks, her nods of approval, his relieved smiles. It was as if she had raised him, guided him, loved him through every stage of life. Not me, not the woman who held his hand through fevers at 2 a.m., not the woman who worked double shifts to give him the life he deserved, not the woman who taught him how to drive that very car she arrived in. When it was time for the vows, my son's voice cracked, not from emotion directed toward me, but from the overwhelming presence of a new family. He seemed desperate to please. And then came the part that broke me. The officiant said, "Please rise, for the parents who made today possible." Everyone turned toward the bride's parents. Everyone clapped. No one looked at me, not even my son. I felt my chest tighten, heat rising behind my eyes, but I refused to cry there. Not where anyone could see, not when they would think I was being dramatic. When the ceremony ended, people rushed to congratulate the couple and the bride's family. I stood up quietly, planning to slip out for some air. But before I could reach the aisle, my son's mother-in-law blocked my path. Her smile, syrupy sweet. Try to stick to the back during the photos, she said softly. We really don't want things unbalanced. As if my motherhood threatened her perfect picture. I walked away before I said something I'd regret. But what I didn't know then was that the reception would push me beyond my breaking point, and the moment that changed everything was coming fast. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more emotional family stories. The reception hall was even louder and brighter than the ceremonious swirl of gold lights, clinking glasses, and excited chatter. But beneath all the celebration, I felt an ache building deep inside my chest. Every table had families gathered together, laughing and posing for photos. Except mine. My place card was tucked away at table 14, squeezed between distant relatives I barely knew. Meanwhile, the bride's family occupied tables 1 through 4, prime spots directly in front of the stage. My son walked in with his new wife, hand in hand, glowing with excitement. The crowd cheered, cameras flashed, and there, right beside them, almost glued to their side, was the mother-in-law. She moved like she owned the night, directing photographers, correcting waiters, whispering last-minute suggestions to the wedding planner. Every time my son smiled at guests, she somehow positioned herself right next to him, ready to be in every photo. I watched silently as they made their rounds. They hugged her family, her cousins, her grandparents, even her neighbors. Then they reached my table. My son leaned down, gave me a small, quick hug, one that lasted barely a second. No warmth, no real affection, just a polite gesture, like checking a box. "Mom, you made it," he said. There it was, again, made it, as if showing up for the most important day of his life was optional for me. "I've been here," I replied quietly. His wife smiled awkwardly. "Sorry, we didn't get a chance to include you in the earlier photos. Things were chaotic." Before I could respond, her mother swooped in from behind, placing an arm possessively around her daughter's waist. "Sweetheart, the photographer is ready for the family portraits," she said, looking directly at my son. "Come on, we don't want to keep everyone waiting." Family portraits. They hadn't even asked me to join. My son hesitated just for a moment. His eyes flickered to mine, guilt simmering beneath the surface. But then his mother-in-law gently nudged him toward the stage. "We should go," he whispered. I nodded, pretending it didn't hurt. For the next 20 minutes, I watched them take photos. The bride's family posed in every formation possible: parents, siblings, grandparents, cousins, group shots, silly shots, elegant shots, all with the mother-in-law front and center, smiling like she had built this family brick by brick. Then, a photographer finally announced, "If there are any other close family members, please step forward." My heart jumped. This was my chance. I stood up slowly, but before I could take a single step, the mother-in-law grabbed the microphone and said loudly, "That's all for now. We need to stay on schedule." The photographer nodded and started packing up. And just like that, my moment was stolen. Again. I sat back down, my hands trembling. I felt invisible, erased from my own son's life, pushed aside by someone who wasn't afraid to take my place. But I didn't leave, not yet, because the moment that finally shattered everything, the moment that made me take action, was still to come. Dinner had just been served when the DJ announced it was time for the toasts. Guests cheered, glasses clinked, and people leaned forward with anticipation. This was supposed to be a heartfelt moment, stories of childhood, gratitude, love, and support. As the mother of the groom, I expected at least a mention, a memory, a nod, something. But instead, the microphone went straight to the mother-in-law. She walked up to the stage like she'd rehearsed for this her entire life, holding her champagne flute high, eyes gleaming with pride. My stomach twisted, not because she was giving a toast, but because I already knew no one had asked me to give one, not even my son. She began, her voice warm and overflowing with sentiment. "From the day my daughter brought him home, I knew he was special," she said, looking at my son with a soft smile. "He became part of our family instantly, like a son we'd always wanted. Like a son they always wanted." The words hit me like a knife. She continued, I've watched him grow into such a responsible, loving man. I've been there through the stress, the planning, the challenges, and I couldn't be prouder to call him my son. My son, not her son, not like a son to me, just my son. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Guests clapped warmly, touched by her speech, completely unaware of what it felt like to sit there as the real mother, the woman who raised him from infancy, while another woman claimed the title in front of hundreds. Then it got worse. She lifted her glass toward my son. "And thank you," she said confidently, "for choosing me to be by your side today during all the preparations. It meant the world to me." My heart sank. He chose her, so it wasn't just her pushing herself in. He allowed it. He invited it. People turned to look at me, some with sympathy, some with confusion. I kept my face neutral, but inside, I was crumbling. When she finished, the applause was loud to loud. My son hugged her, lifting her slightly off the floor, laughing like a boy who felt completely understood. Then, the DJ announced, "Next," a few words from the groom. I straightened in my chair, praying he would mention me, recognize me. Just one sentence. He took the microphone, smiling nervously. "I just want to thank everyone who helped make today special, especially my amazing mother. She has been a rock through all of this." People clapped again. "And of course," he added quickly, "thank you to my mom for coming, not for raising him, not for supporting him, not for loving him, just for showing up." A courtesy acknowledgement. A footnote. My chest tightened so painfully I thought I might faint. Tears prickled behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Not there. Not in front of the woman who had taken my place so effortlessly. As the room filled with laughter and music again, I quietly slipped out toward the hallway, because right then, I knew something. If I didn't stand up for myself soon, I would disappear completely from my son's life, and the breaking point was closer than I realized. If you're following this emotional story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful family stories. I stood in the hallway, leaning against the wall, trying to catch my breath. The noise from the reception muffled through the closed doors. Laughter, music, clinking glasses, sounds of celebration that made me feel even more alone. I needed a moment, just one moment to breathe. That as I steadied myself, I heard voices approaching, familiar ones. I stepped closer to the corner, not intending to eavesdrop, but the words drifted so clearly that I couldn't help but hear it was my son and his mother-in-law. "Don't worry," she was saying, her voice dripping with pride. "Everything is going perfectly. You two look amazing. The photos are wonderful. I handled most of the planning, so of course it all turned out beautifully." My son chuckled. "Yeah, thank you for everything. Really, I don't know what we would have done without you." I closed my eyes, feeling a sting behind them. Then she said something that made my heart stop. "Your mom seems a little emotionally today. She's probably just overwhelmed. It's a big day for her, even if she didn't help much." Didn't help. I was the one who babysat him while working 2 jobs. I was the one who saved for his education. I was the one who taught him kindness, patience, responsibility. I was the one who made him into the man they were celebrating. How could she erase all of that so casually? My son replied quietly, "Yeah, she just gets sensitive sometimes. I'm hoping she doesn't take things personally. Sensitive, overreacting, causing drama." That's how he saw me. A sudden tremor ran through me, equal parts hurt and anger. I didn't walk away. I didn't hide. I stepped forward, turning the corner before either of them realized I was near. My son jumped slightly when he saw me. "Mamo, I didn't see you there." His mother-in-law gave me a tight-lipped smile. "I heard what you said," I said softly. My voice wasn't loud or shaking. It was calm, steady, and full of years of unspoken pain. "And for the first time tonight, I believe you meant it." My son's expression shifted. Guilt flickered in his eyes, but only briefly. "Mom, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think," I cut in gently. "You may see me as sensitive, overly emotional, but I'm not blind, and I'm not imagining what's been happening today." His mother-in-law folded her arms. "This is a wedding. Emotions are high. Let's not make this into something it isn't." Her dismissiveness lit something inside me, a heat, a strength I didn't know I still had. "It already is," I said. "From the bridal suite, to the photos, to the speeches, I've been pushed aside over and over. And you," I looked at my son, "let it happen." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. For the first time, I didn't fill the silence. I didn't comfort him. I didn't apologize. Instead, I straightened my shoulders and said, If I'm truly this unwanted, I won't make the mistake of forcing myself into a space that clearly doesn't have room for me. Then, I turned around and walked away, before either of them could respond. What I didn't know was that the final blow, the moment that changed everything forever, was waiting for me right outside those doors. I pushed open the doors of the reception hall and stepped outside into the cool night air. The silence felt like a blessing, wrapping around me after hours of noise, humiliation, and forced smiles. I stood there alone, staring at the decorative lights twinkling across the courtyard, wondering how this day, my son's wedding, had become the most painful moment of my life. I thought I was finally free from the chaos, from the whispers, from the mother-in-law's constant shadow, but then I saw something that made my breath freeze. My son, standing a few steps away, alone, head bowed, hands trembling at his sides. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The distance between us felt heavier than ever. Finally, he whispered, "Mom, please don't leave." I stayed still. Why? So I can be ignored again, pushed aside, treated like a guest in your life. He flinched. "I didn't realize it was hurting you this much," he said, voice cracking. I thought you'd be okay. You always are." "That's the problem," I replied. "You've started assuming I'll swallow everything, that I'll let it go, that I'll stay quiet just because I'm your mother." He swallowed hard. "I didn't choose her over you." "You didn't have to choose," I said softly. "You just forgot that I existed." The truth hung in the air between us, painful and undeniable. He looked away, shame coloring his face. "She kept saying you'd make things complicated, that you'd get emotional." I guess I let her influence too much. I took a slow breath. "Son, I didn't raise you to replace me the moment someone else called you family." His voice broke. "I'm sorry, Mom." For the first time that day, I believed he meant it. As he stepped closer, I noticed the tears forming in his eyes, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, real ones he used to cry as a boy when he knew he'd done something wrong. "I wanted you in the suite," he said. "I wanted you in the photos. I wanted you in everything, but every time I tried to bring it up, she'd get upset, and I didn't want to start the marriage with a fight." I nodded slowly. "And instead, you started it by hurting your own mother." He closed his eyes. "I know." A long silence stretched between us. Then he took a step closer. "Mom, will you forgive me?" I felt a tear escape, just one. Not for him, but for the years I had spent raising a boy who loved me deeply, and for the man who had momentarily forgotten that. "I will," I said, "but things won't go back to the way they were unless you make room for me again." He nodded quickly, desperate. "I will, I promise. I'll talk to her, I'll fix this." And for the first time that night, I hugged my son, not the groom, not the man trying to please everyone, just my son, the boy I had loved since the moment he took his first breath. The mother-in-law stepped outside then, frowning, clearly confused by the sight of us. But my son held on to me a little tighter, and for once, she didn't step between us. Maybe tomorrow wouldn't be perfect, but that night, something important had shifted. He remembered who I was, and that was enough to begin again. Thank you for listening to this emotional story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more powerful and heart-touching stories.